I'm really proud right now this morning. Jamet's not here, and she is down in Des Moines right now. There's a relay for breast cancer awareness in Des Moines, and our two boys. One, James, flew in from New York to be a part of this, and our son from South Dakota came to be a part of it. They're to be a team together, and so it's a kind of a he-man kind of thing, but it's more of a team practice where they will ride bikes for 11 miles. They're going to canoe for 4 miles and then run 5 miles. And so Janet went down there. I wish I could be there, but to encourage them, to yell them forward and stuff. And as I was thinking about it, when the boys were young and they were running track, Janet, one of the boys, one of our friends, little boys had heard Janet yelling, and they said, "Boy, she yells a lot." And James said, "Yeah, you ought to hear it at home." So I'm just really pleased to know that the two of them are running together now for something very, very important this morning. America is going through a hard time this week. I know that when I woke up to the news on Sunday or Monday morning, it was one of those things that it was just too hard for me to fathom that someone would do such a horrific thing, and it has caused such concern for all of us, because no place is really safe anymore against somebody who would be that willing and to attempt something to kill so many people at one time. And when I first heard this, my first intent was to really find out the motive. I'm still wondering what would possess somebody to do something like that. And in this, I found also myself almost without words to describe and to understand, but to only be praying for comfort and for strength and healing for our nation. This morning, as we look at the scripture lesson, I hope that we can pull from it some words of comfort and hope in the midst of all that is happening in our country right now with this shooting and then also the hurricanes. It is the familiar passage to us where Jesus feeds the 5,000, and I'm reading from each of the versions in all four Gospels. As I've said before, this is the only miracle other than the resurrection that is told in all four Gospels. And so for us to realize that for it to be shared by the Gospel writers, all four of them, there must be something important for us to see in this that we need to learn and to hold on to at this time. Mark's version is the first that was written, and there is some unusual things I'm going to bring out this morning. It begins by the apostles gathered around Jesus and told him all that they had done and taught. He had sent them out as a mission of 12 to go out and share the good news, to be out on their own without him. And they came back, feeling like they accomplished something, that they did something. And so he said to them, "Come away to a deserted place all by yourself and rest a while." It sounds familiar, doesn't it? It was our call to worship this morning. And when I began this, before hearing all of the events on Sunday evening, I was looking for words of comfort, and so I'm going to continue here. For many were coming and going, and they had no leisure even to eat. And they went away in a boat to a deserted place by themselves. Now many saw them going and recognized them, and they hurried there on foot from all the towns and arrived ahead of them. As Jesus went ashore, he saw a great crowd, and he had compassion for them, and because they were like sheep without a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. When it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a deserted place, and the hour is now very late. Send them away so that they may go into the surrounding country and villages and buy something for themselves to eat." But Jesus said to them, "You give them something to eat." They said to him, "Are we to go and to buy 200 denarii worth of food and to give it to them to eat?" And Jesus said to them, "How many loaves have you?" Go and see. When they found out, they said, we have five loaves and 2 fish. Then he ordered them to get all the people to sit down in groups on the green grass, so that they sat down in groups of hundreds and fifties. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, Jesus looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves, gave them to his disciples and set before the people, and set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all, and all ate and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces of fish. Those who had eaten those loaves numbered 5,000 men. Now, as we looked at last week's version in Matthew, Matthew is the one gospel that says 5,000 men plus women and children. And so there are some theologians and readers of the Bible that believe that there could be 10 to 15,000 people gathered. So I just can't imagine taking 5 loaves and 2 fish and spreading out. My mom had a way of working miracles with meatloaf and stretching it out. But nothing like this. Nothing like this. It's an incredible story that Mark is wanting us to see, but what I want to see is what is unusual about Mark. You see, in a matter of a few days, Mark also includes another feeding of the multitude. Now, this is only included in Matthew and Mark, but the feeding of 4,000, which we don't talk much about because, well, 4,000 is less than 5,000, and we always talk about the really big event. But the 4,000 comes just days after he fed 5,000. Very similar, except the difference is that they have 7 loaves of bread and some few small fish, and they feed the 4,000 people, and they have 7 baskets of food left. The evening comes, and it's time to go. This is after, and this is what I want you to notice. The Pharisees came after all of this and began to argue with Jesus, asking him for a sign from heaven to test him. And Jesus sighed deeply in his spirit and said, "Why does this generation ask for a sign?" This is just after he fed all of these people. "Truly I tell you, no sign will be given to this generation." But he left them, and getting into a boat again, he went across to the other side. Now, the disciples were in the boat, and so now the disciples had forgotten to bring any bread with them. They had only 1 loaf with them in the boat. And Jesus cautioned them, saying, "Watch out, beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and the yeast of Herod." They said to one another, "It is because we have no bread." He had overheard them talking, and then they confessed that they were talking about the fact that they were getting hungry, and there was only 1 loaf of bread, which wasn't enough for all of them. And becoming aware of this, Jesus said to them, "Why are you talking about having no bread?" Now, you have to get into this. "Do you still not perceive or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes fail to see? Do you have ears and fail to hear? And do you not remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000? How many baskets full of broken pieces did you collect?" And they answered, "How many baskets?" 12. So I imagine very sheepishly they said, 12. And then the 7 for the 4,000. "How many basketfuls of broken pieces did you collect?" And they said to him, 7. They were, I'm sure. And then Jesus said to them, "Do you not yet understand? Do you not yet understand?" That is really the worst dressing down that you see, but Mark's gospel is like that. For Mark, he wants to demonstrate to us that the disciples were much like like putting together the 3 Stooges and multiplying it by 4. Dumb and dumber and dumbest. And that he wants to prove that he gathered just ordinary people that are just like you and I, that it is only until they receive the Holy Spirit that they are empowered then to go out and to do what they did in changing the world in the name of Jesus Christ. But before then, they were just like you and I. We were just oblivious to what we were seeing. This dressing down reminds me of the time when I asked my father for a 25-cent allowance. Went up to him while he was lounging on a Saturday, went up there and said, Dad, everybody in the block, everybody in our neighborhood gets an allowance. Can I have allowance? Can I just have 25 cents every week? And those of you here, as I look at the ages of most of you, 25 cents, I could buy 5 candy bars, or I could find a bottle of pop and as many candy bars, or I could buy 2 comic books with 25 cents. It was incredible what 25 cents could do. And I was thinking, then I could have a bottle of pop and a candy bar, and I could also get myself a comic book, and I could be like the rest of the kids in the neighborhood. My dad looked at me and he said, wait a minute, son. I give you everything you need. But Dad, everybody's got allowance. Why can't I have allowance? Let me show you. So we went upstairs to my bedroom, and he said, now look, this is a beautiful bed that I provide that you have a chance to sleep in. Opens the closet, and look, all the clothes hanging here that we provide for you. Took me down to the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and said, now look, you never go hungry in this place, and look over your head. You never are cold, you never are too warm, you've got a ceiling over your head and never have to worry about raining on you. I give you everything you need. Why do you need 25 cents to go spend on anything you want to? But Dad, you just don't understand. Why do you just why? And I said, well, how about you make it 10 cents? My dad said, okay, go up to your room and rest for a while and think about it. Now, if you put yourself with the disciples and Jesus in this boat, they had just witnessed a few days ago the feeding of 5,000. That day they had witnessed the feeding of 4,000. They get in a boat with Jesus. They have 1 loaf of bread, and they're concerned about being hungry. And Jesus gives them the biggest talk down of their lives. Don't you have eyes to see, ears to hear? Didn't you just see what just happened? I fed 5,000 people and 4,000 people with 5 loaves and 7 loaves, and you're concerned about us being in this boat with 1 loaf. Don't you think he was saying, don't you trust me? Don't you understand? Haven't you been watching? We have been walking through this wilderness life, and I've been doing these miracles. I've been teaching all about the things that I can do, and you still don't understand. Well, we are a lot like disciples ourselves. There are times in our own lives, in many stages of our lives, in many moments in our lives where we just don't have enough and we just don't understand. When Janet and I were first married, we're both students. She was going to nursing school and I was going to seminary, and we were as poor as church mice. We were as poor as I can remember, and we were on a very tight budget, and it was very, very difficult time for us. It got down to, we had finally finished fall break, and we were going to be going home for Christmas, which meant that we could go home and relax. And we both got done with classes. We were feeling good. We wanted to go celebrate. New married couple wanted to celebrate on ourselves. And so we looked at each other, and let's go out and do something special tonight. So I looked at my billfold, and there was nothing there. She looked at her billfold, and there really wasn't enough there. And I don't know. My dad's talking to me, I came up with this great scheme that, well, the only way I'm going to get spending money is if I find a job. So I went out and I got a paper route. And when I got my paper route, I started, collecting money, and then I would start rolling it up in quarters and in dimes and nickels and pennies in order to take to the bank, to cash in, to pay for my papers. And then what was left over was mine. And so I had this money that I squirreled away for a long time. Rolls of quarters and dimes and nickels and pennies. Well, Janet and I were looking at each other, and we felt like we needed to go out, and I said, well, I still have some money left over. Went to my underwear drawer, and there were 4 rolls of coins collected, still left over from when I was a paper boy. You see, here's a jar full of the silver half dollars and silver dollars that I collected that is still around the house, that I've got hidden away from Janet. But go out. So what I had was 4 rolls of coins. I had 2 nickels, 1 dime, and a penny, $9.50. And so we were living in Kansas City. This is 35 years ago. We were living in a place where we could go 4 blocks any direction. We could find about any kind of restaurant we wanted to go. So we started going out, and we went first to this Italian restaurant, and we couldn't have afforded even a bowl of spaghetti for ourselves. We'd have to split it, and we'd look like the Lady in the Tramp, sharing a thing of spaghetti. And then we went to a Mexican restaurant and couldn't even hardly afford the hors d'oeuvres. And so we just gave up and started walking home, wondering what were we going to do. There are stages in our lives when we just don't have enough. Seems like yesterday that we were just in Nigeria 2 months ago. Both of us had our come to Jesus moments while we were there. For Janet, it was going out to the clinics and having to be overwhelmed by the number of people who are wanting to come and to seek her help and wanting her to help them get well and to help them cure them. For me, it was the day I was to stand before 500 Nigerian pastors and to give them the good word. The night before the pastors' retreat, there were Nigerian pastors that were coming from all over. They were riding their motorcycles, and they were arriving in the evening, and it was like homecoming on this little BTS campus. They came, they were greeting one another, and I was hanging out because the thing really doesn't start till the next morning. But it was like homecoming. Many of them had gone to school, many of them had served together, and it was a great, great feeling around there. What I enjoyed was seeing some old familiar faces that I had met previously and connecting with them and renewing that friendship. But something happened that night, and it seems to happen to me a lot. I don't know if this is a gift or what, but I could be standing in line at Hy-Vee or Fairway, and the person behind me begins telling me their troubles and their yearnings. I don't know if I've got big ears or there's something on me that says I will listen. But it seems like no matter where we go, whether we're on vacation or where we're eating out somewhere or we're just going to the grocery store, that a complete stranger who will look and come to me and talk about how things are going. That's what happened that night as we were preparing. I had pastors that were coming up that I'd never met before that was telling me about how the fact is that they were working and serving in a church where they didn't even know if they had enough food to eat each day. Pastors who were telling me about the fact that they had to go into another village and bring their elderly parents with them and have them move in with them because they needed to be looked after. There's no nursing homes in fact, there's not even a Nigerian word for nursing home in Nigeria. Pastors who were telling me about a pastor was telling me about his daughter who at 17 years old left in the middle of the night to go to Lagos, which is their largest city, which is full of crime and wanting to go and escape the village and find a life there. And he was saying about he just knows that she's only going to find trouble. So after hearing many stories about the struggles of being a pastor, serving in churches, being a father and raising kids and being a husband and being and trying to be a loving husband, I just felt like I'd heard that they were of their struggles. Going to bed that night, I began to wonder, how am I going to preach to them? I was going to preach that next morning and give them any kind of good news, to give them hope and encouragement and what they're doing. And then at 4 o'clock in the morning, there was a pounding at our door. Papa Steve, wake up. When one of the pastors' wife had died, giving birth to their baby. And they wanted me to come and to be with this man because he was getting ready to take off to go home and to pray for him and to be with his friends and to gather. And I got there, and it was a room full of strangers. And I just felt like, what do you do and what do you say? Sometimes there just isn't enough words. Sometimes there just isn't enough to give. Sometimes there is just not enough. The story this morning is about Jesus taking what little we have to offer and to multiply it so that all are satisfied, all are fed, all are given. And yet we, like the disciples, are on the boat and we're questioning. We're looking at one loaf of bread and we don't realize that the very person that could break that bread and give us more than we needed to eat was right there in our presence. That sometimes when we get overwhelmed by life and overwhelmed by all that's going on, when things just get to be too heavy and we're pulled in so many directions, we forget that we are not alone. And so when I went to preach to the 500 pastors that next morning, I reminded them that ministry is a lonely, lonely profession. But sometimes as pastors, we forget that we are doing this by ourselves, that we are not alone, that God is present with us and Jesus promises that he will always, always be with us. And that Jesus has this way of taking what we offer and is able to multiply it and make it happen. Because I believe miracles continue to happen when we share of ourselves, our presence. You see, you being here is no accident. You're called this morning. Some of you are here just because worship is an opportunity for you to find that quiet place in the midst of your busy lives, to find yourself nurtured and fed, just as Jesus fed that 5,000. But you don't realize that maybe the person that you're sharing that pew with is somebody who is going through probably the most challenging and difficult moments in their life, and they just need somebody who says, "Are you okay? How are you doing?" Your presence could be the best gift that you could give to that person in their time of need. You just willing to be with them, to sit with them and encourage them in their faith walk is what helps them. When I was looking through all my paper route, it deserves to go in a museum, but I found this in there, and I'd forgotten about it. But what it is a penny with this little silver thing about it. And it was given out by the Rexall store. How many remember Rexall stores? They sell drugs. Now they would be in trouble for selling drugs. But anyway, it was for advertisement. Save at the Rexall 1 cent sale. So I'm sure that you could buy something and 1 more cent you could get something else. And then on the other side, this thing is so old. It's 1949. And then it says on the other side, "Keep me and never go broke." So keep this in your pocket and you'll never grow broke. In much the same way, if we keep Christ in our heart, we'll never grow empty. We'll never grow hungry. That he promises that he will always be there. Now this is an example of the silver dollars and half dollars that I collected and still have squirreled away. It's in an old Skippy peanut butter jar, glass even. You don't see that very often. But the night that Janet and I were going to go out and celebrate, we passed by a grocery store. We stopped and we bought a package of spaghetti and a jar of sauce and a loaf of French bread. And we still had change left over from the $9.50 that I was carrying in rolls of coins in my pocket. Went home and we got that ready, and she found some old candles that she put on some candlesticks that we had gotten for wedding gifts. And as she said, that was probably the most romantical evening that we ever had. It's amazing when we share things, miracles happen. When we realize the gift that we have of being present for one another. When we realize that Christ has promised to always be with us. Miracles happen. Love is a powerful gift that we have. It's what this world needs. Let us pray. Gracious and holy God, as we come before you, we're mindful that you fed the thousands. And yet your disciples had not seen or heard the message that was through that. That you're there to multiply the gifts, to share the love, to offer hope in the midst of the dark times. So Lord, may we be that hope and that help and that healing in a world right now so desperately in need of your light and your love and your healing. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.